Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to the bunker. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from Ainsley. Let's listen to what Ainsley has to say.
Hi Lloyd, my name's Ainsley. I'm reaching out today because I'm struggling. To keep it short, I got this fellowship from 2021, and my grandfather, who is also a witness, decided to see me behind the elder's back. To be clear, I never intruded on his life or forced him to be a part of mine. He wanted to see me. Then, a month after I got this fellowship, he decided to cut contact with me. This lasted a month before he called me up saying he missed me, and everything was back to normal until a week ago when he went on holiday. He came back from holiday and decided to cut me off again, but this time he decided not to tell me face to face, but instead decided to change the locks on his door and ignore my phone calls. My fiance decided to go round later on that evening just to make sure he was okay because we hadn't heard from him in 5 days and was getting a little worried because he usually answers his phone, or at least his door. And my granddad responded that he wanted nothing to do with me anymore and that he couldn't speak to me. And when my fiance asked if he was choosing the truth, air quotes, he said yes. I haven't spoke to him since, and I'm devastated. We were extremely close, and I don't know how to deal with this. It's hit me extremely hard. I never thought I'd have to deal with this sort of thing because when I left, he he wanted to see me. He never made any indication that he was going to cut me off, and I thought it was going to be fine. He was talking about the truth all the time, and I just thought that it would be okay, even though I didn't like talking about it, and I didn't like hearing about it. I thought that everything would be okay, but apparently not, and I just don't really know how to deal with this. I know a lot of people struggle with this, but it's a lot harder than I expected. You can post this on your YouTube channel if you want. Thank you, Lloyd, and keep on making all the all the good content that you do because it really helps out a lot. Thank you. Bye.
Well, thank you so much for that message, Ainsley. My heart goes out to you. It's a horrible, horrible thing to have to deal with shunning. You mentioned there feeling devastated by your experience, and I'm afraid I need to issue the usual disclaimer that I'm not a mental health professional, and if you're really struggling with feelings of loss or anxiety, you need to seek out a mental health professional to help steer you through this situation. I can obviously empathize with the whole shunning thing, having been on the receiving end of it for quite some years now. Time is a healer. Time, or the passage of time, helps you to come to terms with your adjusted relationships. And when I say adjusted, really what I mean is your terminated relationships with people who feel, due to their Jehovah's Witness beliefs, that they must shun you. They must adhere to the shunning command. In your particular instance, and I think the reason why I was so intrigued by your message is you've hit upon an anomaly that you do hear about quite a bit, but doesn't really get talked about that much, which is on again, off again shunning, where you're basically being toyed with. I think about, sometimes you'll see on wildlife programs footage of killer whales or orcas not just devouring their prey, but tossing their prey around for sport. So they've caught a seal, for example, and rather than simply chewing on it or swallowing it, they like to play with it a bit first, which you can only imagine causes incredible trauma to the seal. And I think that's what is being described, or a similar thing is being described, when we're talking about someone being shunned and then not being shunned, and then being shunned again and then not being shunned. I think it's incredibly cruel, incredibly heartless, and incredibly insensitive. It's one thing to shun and to say, I am going to cut you out of my life for purely ideological reasons, even though you're my daughter or my granddaughter, if you leave Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's what my own father has said to me. So on the eve of my disassociation or apostasy trial, I received an email from my father telling me that he would be shunning me if I disassociated, which is what ended up happening. And he stuck to it. He has stuck to it. And I think that's deplorable enough in the context of not just a father. Now that I'm a father, I understand a little bit more about what it means to be a father and what it means to care about your children. It's not just disturbing for a parent to suspend their parental instincts, to suspend their parental love. In my father's case, he has gone above and beyond, really, in refusing to meet his grandchildren, refusing to meet Julia and Jessica, which, again, just baffles me. But even in that instance, I can at least say, well, he's being consistent, you know? I would have liked a display of humanity from him. I would have liked his humanity to overpower or override the inhumane things that his cult is requiring of him. But I've learned over the past few years that that's just not who he is. He's incapable of allowing his humanity to come to the surface. And he's just going to stick with shunning no matter what. But at least he's being consistent. And I've not had a situation where it's a case of, right, I miss you, Lloyd. Let's talk. Oh, okay, Dad. You know, jump on Skype or jump on the phone and have a good old conversation. And then a month later, oh, actually, I've changed my mind. I need to shun you again. I would be apoplectic if that were to happen. I would be beyond angry at that sort of lack of sensitivity. I actually think in some ways it's worse than just the shunning. I think it's rubbing it in. It's showing a complete lack of sensitivity. And I think what's probably happened in your granddad's case is he's not really thought through what being disfellowshipped means. I don't know your story or his story or your family's story. I just know that when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I was never really required to shun a close family member. So shunning was always more hypothetical in my case. Of course, I shunned people. Of course, I shunned disfellowshipped people and disfellowshipped friends. But I can't think of an obvious example of an actual close family member who I had to shun. So it was always kind of a hypothetical situation for me. And maybe, again, I don't know all the ins and outs, but maybe that's was the case for your granddad. Maybe shunning was hypothetical, and it was only when he found himself in a situation where he needed to do it with you that he struggled to do it, but ultimately caved in. So from that point of view, to a degree, it's understandable if he's struggling to adapt to what this cruel cult is expecting him to do. But that doesn't excuse the enormous emotional damage inflicted on you that is exacerbated by this indecision, by this toing and froing. So, and, you know, let's make no mistake, ostracism hurts. It's an actual pain that you feel, if Tibor is gracious, you will see a thumbnail to a conversation I had with an expert on ostracism who explains that it's basically a physical pain that you feel that has its roots in our evolutionary heritage. Because if you're on the savannah and your tribe abandons you, the likelihood of you dying shoots up exponentially. You're in a survival situation unless you can restore your relationship with your tribe or find a new tribe. And what is pain supposed to do? Pain, the whole point of pain, be it physical or emotional, is to prompt you to make a change, to prompt you to do something, to stop you from being in an even worse predicament. So you can only imagine how, or I can only imagine how painful off again, on again ostracism might be. Again, I would liken it to the way a predator might toy with its prey rather than simply devouring it. It's incredibly cruel. So let the record show that I think your granddad's behaviour is deplorable. More so than in a situation where someone is at least being consistent in being inhumane. His behaviour is making your predicament even worse. And to go back to what I was saying about time being a healer, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a case of you figuring out mentally and emotionally how to live with the ostracism. And if by any chance he switches back again and says, "Oh, my bad, I've realized the error of my ways and I now want a relationship with you again," if I were in your shoes, I would be once bitten, twice shy, or 2 or 3 times bitten, even more shy. And I would be personally, as a total outsider who, I can't advise you or anything, but I would be minded to say, get lost, I'm not falling for this one again. So at the very least, even though there are no easy answers in this situation, and again, it's incredibly painful what you're going through, for what it's worth, please accept my solidarity with your plight. I do think that you would benefit from, again, seeing a mental health professional just to help you manage these feelings. But I can tell you that with the passage of time, things will improve. You will figure out how to move on with your life without being reliant on people who value dogma over their relationship with you. Because ultimately, people like that who can't love you for who you are they really worth having in your life? So that's all I really have to say on that message. I hope it's helpful. If you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to broadcast your message on my channel. But that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for watching.